Hi, English 3 students. Welcome to this online emergency class. It's because of Corona, we can't meet, we can't have a regular classes, so we're doing classes the way we're doing right now. Okay, all right. So for today's class, we're going to be talking about formal versus informal language. And your objective for this lesson will be to make the difference between formal and informal language and use them properly. Now let's get into it. Um, so let me introduce you to Mr. Louis. So meet Mr. Louis and Reginald. Mr. Louis and Reginald, they are the same person, guys. But still, they couldn't be more different. They differ in many ways, but they differ the most in the way they talk. So as you can see, I'm pretty much reading this to make it easier and to go faster. So yeah, it's pretty much what I did for you. So Mr. Louis uses formal language, guys. I think you know that. But Reginald doesn't use formal language. He uses informal language. So one of them will come across as more serious than the other. And you can guess who will come across as more serious. And one of them, people will say that he's more laid back, more relaxed. And you already know which one of them people will talk about as more relaxed and laid back. So let's keep going. Formal language, so yeah, you guessed it. Mr. Louis, people will refer to him as someone who is very serious, sometimes more than he should be. And Reginald, on the other hand, people will say that he is the more laid back one because he uses casual language, the language that people use every day, which we call the natural language, which we also call informal language. Now, let's talk first about formal language. Formal language is a type of language that is used in more formal or serious situations. So let's talk about some places that you will find formal language. When you go to school, at a business, in court, when you're writing an essay or an academic paper, when you're talking to someone important, or when you're having dinner with Jovenel Moise. So in those cases, you need to use formal language. Some traits of formal language include no contraction. You make minor use of personal pronouns. Why? It's because when you're writing something formal to someone important, you don't really want to talk about yourself. You don't want to draw too much attention towards yourself. Your personal life is not what interests the person. So you try to make use of personal pronouns as less as possible. And personal formal language use longer and more complicated sentences. That means for informal language, you will use words that are not very common. For example, you will hear people instead of saying he has a tendency to, they can say he has a propensity for. You see? And another trait of formal language is they use a lot of etiquette. Etiquette is really present, major use of etiquette guidelines. So it's because when you want to be formal, you want to sound extremely polite. Formal language. We're still going over formal language. Now let's talk about some phrases that Mr. Louis has been known to utter. You see here, I didn't use the word say, I used the word utter. This is kind of uncommon. It's an uncommon way to say. But because I'm trying to sound formal, I just use it as an example here. Mr. Louis has been known to utter phrases like, may I participate in your competition? This soup is divine. I have completed my assignment this evening. Let us head to the park after dinner. But even here, a verb like head to, I would not use a verb like that if I wanted to sound very formal, because this is kind of an something that I would say if I wanted to talk naturally. And so instead of saying let us head to the park, I would just say let us go to the park after dinner. And another word that Mr. Lee had been known to utter is another sentence is unfortunately I will not be able to attend your celebration. Now let's look at informal language on the other hand. Informal language is what we call casual language. Like I said earlier, this is what we know as the natural way of speaking. I'm going to ask you to look up casual in your dictionary. You can do this right now. You can pause the video and look it up. Yeah, and look up actually is an informal word, an informal phrasal verb to use. And general phrasal verbs are informal. We don't use them in formal writing or formal speaking. If I wanted to sound formal here, instead of saying look up casual, I would have said research or search casual in your dictionary. So informal language is a type of language you use in more laid back and casual situation. Laid back means serious. No, laid back, sorry. Laid back means relaxed. It's the opposite of serious, actually. Um, it's everyday language. Some places you may identify this type of language or at home, on the sports field, with your friends, with family, among kids and teenagers, at any place that is casual. Yeah, you can try to think about some more places where you will find people using informal language. This is kind of the everyday life. Some traits of informal language include contractions. For example, if I wanted to be formal, I couldn't say, I didn't do it. Didn't is a contraction. You can do that when you're using informal language, but when you're using formal language, you can't. Instead of saying I did it, I would have said I did not. And yeah, informal language, as you might have guessed it, is gonna use a lot of personal pronouns. It's kind of the opposite of formal language, and it uses a lot of slangs and idioms which you don't use in formal language. And it uses a lot of fillers. You know what is a filler? A filler is something that you use to replace what you can't find, the word that you're looking for, but it's not coming to your mind. So you might use words like yeah, you know, well, yeah. So all this is what we call fillers. You totally can use that in formal speaking, but you can't do that when you want to sound formal. And they can use shorter sentences. Yeah, sometimes they can even go to the extent of not being polite at all. Some phrases that Reginald has been known to say include, can I join your game? Your soup is yummy. I'm done with my homework tonight. Let's go to the park after supper. After supper. No, I can't get to your party. Now I'm going to ask you to do this very easy little exercise. I'm going to ask you to decide which sentences were said by Reginald and which ones were said by Mr. B. What's up? Hello. You don't know what you don't know what I'm talking about. This is too complicated for one to comprehend. We'll talk about it later. Let us have a discussion in a little while. Informal language sucks. Formal language sucks. Informal language lacks tact and respectability. So, oh, sorry, there was a little problem with the slide. You know, this is not really a PowerPoint, guys. I had to turn this into a PDF format because this computer won't read the PowerPoint. Sorry. All right. So what I have here for you guys is a link to a list of informal and formal words. So you can follow this link. So let's read it. Above is a link to a list of informal and formal English words. So what you will do with it is use at least 20 of these words to create a conversation. So this is very, very important. Okay, so this is not a homework, guys. This is a classwork. That means you are going to pause the video and do this as we speak. You're going to use 20 of the words that you will find when you follow the link to create a conversation between two people who are disagreeing with each other. And they are using one of them is using formal language and the other one is using informal language. I'm guessing this is gonna be kind of interesting. So yeah, this is your classwork. So you have about the rest of the day to complete that. Okay, guys, thank you.